First contact deception. The Imperial vessel Sovereign Light emerged from hyperspace with all the grandeur its makers intended, its crystalline hull catching the light of Earth's sun in a deliberate display of technological superiority. High Commander Vexthor stood on his command deck, multiple arms clasped behind his back, head crest extended in anticipation of humanity's first official contact with the Galactic Dominion. Scanning the system, Commander, reported his sensor officer, Lieutenant Yix. Primitive orbital stations detected. Numerous chemical propulsion vessels. No quantum signatures. No gravitic drives. Technological assessment. Pre-spacefaring civilization. Barely Category 2. Vexthor's facial ridges twitched in disappointment. Another primitive species to guide into the glory of the Dominion. Their xenoanthropologists had been monitoring Earth's communications for decades, watching their clumsy attempts at space exploration with a mixture of amusement and pity. "Sir," Yix interrupted his thoughts, "we're receiving a transmission. Basic radio waves." "Put it through," Vexthor commanded, arranging his features into what his species considered a benevolent expression. "Imperial vessel, this is Captain Rajesh Patil of the Earth Space Service vessel Tenacity. Welcome to Sol System." The transmission was almost embarrassingly simple, carried on electromagnetic waves rather than quantum channels. The human vessel approaching them looked exactly as their intelligence suggested, a crude cylinder of metal and ceramic, its chemical engines leaving a visible exhaust trail. Vexthor could see patches on its hull where repairs had been made, likely from micrometeorite impacts their primitive shielding couldn't deflect. "Captain Patel," Vexthor responded, using the human's simple radio. "I am High Commander Vexthor of the Galactic Dominion. We come bearing the gift of advancement." In the Tenacity's command center, Captain Patel struggled to hide his smile. The quantum computers hidden behind seemingly primitive control panels had already completed a full analysis of the Sovereign Light's capabilities. Their advanced technology was laughably inefficient, brute-forcing quantum mechanics rather than working with them. "We are honored, High Commander," Patil responded, making sure to add a slight tremor of awe to his voice. "Though I'm afraid our docking systems may be incompatible with your advanced technology." Vexthor's crew exchanged knowing looks. "We will guide you through the process, Captain. Your species has much to learn." As the Tenacity approached the Imperial vessel, Patil's neural interface, disguised as a simple medical monitor, communicated with Earth's quantum defense network, hidden in pocket dimensions throughout the solar system. Imperial vessel analyzed. Quantum drive configuration confirmed. They're still using stolen Arcturian designs. Weapon systems at least 3 generations behind our current capability. The response from Fleet Command was immediate. "Maintain Protocol 7. Let them think they're the teachers." Patil watched through hidden sensors as the Imperial crew prepared for docking, their movements betraying their sense of superiority. If they only knew that humanity had achieved quantum folding technology centuries ago, that Earth's seemingly primitive space program was an elaborate deception maintained through generations of careful planning. The real work was happening in spaces between spaces, in quantum-folded shipyards, where humanity built vessels that would make the Dominion's finest ships look like children's toys. But humanity had learned from observing the Dominion's expansion across the galaxy. Those who displayed advanced technology too quickly found themselves deemed threats to galactic stability. So they waited and watched and played the role of the primitive species eager to learn from their betters. The Dominion would teach them, never realizing they were the ones being studied. "Beginning docking procedure," Patil announced, purposefully making his ship's approach seem slightly unsteady. "Please forgive our primitive maneuvering thrusters." "Steady, Captain," Vexthor said patronizingly. "Our tractor beams will compensate for your vessel's limitations." As the two ships connected, Patil sent another coded quantum burst to Fleet Command. "First contact protocols proceeding as planned. They suspect nothing." The game had begun. Humanity would play the part of the grateful student, learning only what the Dominion chose to teach, advancing only at the pace they were allowed. And all the while, in hidden quantum spaces throughout the solar system, humanity's true fleet grew stronger. The Dominion thought they were beginning another routine uplift of a primitive species. Instead, they had just encountered humanity's greatest deception, a civilization that had mastered the art of appearing weak while preparing for the day they would need to be strong. As Vexthor prepared to welcome the first humans aboard his vessel, he had no idea that every word, every gesture, every piece of technology they displayed would be analyzed by quantum computers far more sophisticated than anything the Dominion possessed. The teachers were about to become the students, and they didn't even know it. The hidden forge. Admiral Kira Nakamura stood in the observation chamber of Forge Station Alpha, her form silhouetted against the impossible vista before her. Through the quantum blast viewport, she watched as massive ships took shape in spaces that shouldn't exist, their forms bending light in ways that would make imperial physicists weep. "Status report on Project Eclipse," she asked, her neural interface processing streams of data even as she spoke. Dr. Vikram Malhotra, her chief quantum engineer, gestured at the largest vessel under construction. In normal space, it would have been larger than Earth's moon. Here, in the folded dimensions of the forge, it was merely spectacular rather than impossible. "The quantum core is stable," he reported, his fingers dancing through holographic displays. "We've successfully integrated the lessons learned from analyzing the Dominion's crude attempts at quantum manipulation. Their mistakes have taught us what not to do." The vessel they watched was humanity's masterpiece, the culmination of centuries of hidden development. Unlike the brute force approach of Dominion ships, this craft worked with the quantum fabric of space itself, more suggestion than demand. "Admiral," her quantum comm chimed. "Priority message from Captain Patel." The message materialized in her mind through her neural interface. The Dominion was planning to establish a permanent advisory presence in Earth orbit, just as they had done with countless other species before declaring them protectorates of the Empire. "They're moving faster than expected," Vikram observed, reading the same data. "The Sovereign Light's scans must have revealed something." Nakamura's expression remained neutral, but her mind raced through possibilities. "Show me the recursive analysis of their scans." A new hologram bloomed between them, showing the paths of the Dominion's sensor suites. Their crude quantum sensors had picked up traces, not of humanity's true technology, but of the carefully crafted web of deceit designed to be discovered. "Ah," Vikram smiled. "They found exactly what we wanted them to find. Traces of early quantum experimentation, just enough to make them think we're on the verge of a breakthrough. But one we couldn't achieve without their generous guidance," Nakamura added with a hint of irony. "How goes the development of our primitive quantum drive?" Vikram led her through quantum-folded space to another chamber. Here, engineers worked on what appeared to be a simplistic attempt at quantum propulsion. In reality, it was a masterwork of misdirection, a drive system that would appear to function through trial and error, while actually operating on principles far beyond the Dominion's understanding. "We've added just enough flaws to make it interesting," Vikram explained. "When their scientists examine it, they'll find exactly the kind of mistakes a young civilization would make. They'll be so busy correcting our apparent errors, they won't notice the underlying principles at work." A junior engineer, Aisha Rahman, approached with a quantum tablet disguised as primitive technology. "Admiral, we've completed analysis of the Sovereign Light's quantum core. Their efficiency rating is barely 40%. They're bleeding quantum energy across multiple dimensions without even realizing it." Nakamura nodded. "And our public projects? The orbital shipyards are proceeding exactly as planned," Aisha reported. "All visible construction appears appropriately primitive. The Dominion observers will see exactly what they expect, a species struggling to grasp basic spacefaring technology." Through her neural interface, Nakamura accessed the vast quantum network that connected humanity's hidden infrastructure. In dimensional pockets throughout the solar system, humanity's true fleet grew stronger. Each vessel incorporated lessons learned from the Dominion's failures, advancing the art of quantum engineering far beyond what their would-be teachers could imagine. New contact. The quantum network announced. Dominion diplomatic vessel approaching Luna orbit. Right on schedule, Nakamura mused. Time to give them their first lesson in teaching us. She turned to her team. Remember, from this moment forward, every advance we make must appear to stem from their guidance. Every breakthrough must seem to come from their teaching. We are the eager students, nothing more. As if to emphasize her words, a massive quantum forge in the distance began shaping reality itself, building ships that could slit between the spaces that separated dimensions. The Dominion sensors would never detect them, blind to the true nature of quantum space. Dr. Malhotra, Nakamura said, prepare our first failed attempt at quantum communication. Let's give our teachers something to correct. Of course, Admiral, Vikram smiled. I've prepared something special. A quantum array that appears to be based on a fundamental misunderstanding of uncertainty principles. They'll be so busy explaining basic quantum mechanics, they won't notice we're actually using the uncertainty itself as a communication channel. In the distance, the massive form of humanity's greatest achievement continued to take shape, hidden in plain sight. The Dominion would never see it coming, not until it was far too late. For now, humanity would continue their greatest performance, playing the part of the primitive species grateful for guidance, while preparing for the day when the teachers would learn just how little they truly understood. Tests of patience. Imperial High Inspector Nexville was not like the others. Where his predecessors saw only what they expected to see, his 6 eyes noticed the subtle inconsistencies that others missed. Standing in Earth's primitive orbital station, his sensory tendrils twitched at something he couldn't quite identify. Fascinating design choices, he mused, running a quantum scanner disguised as a ceremonial staff along the station's corridor. For a species supposedly struggling with basic space engineering, they've made remarkably efficient use of materials. Director Isabella Torres of the Earth Space Development Authority maintained her carefully practiced expression of eager deference. We do what we can with our limited understanding, High Inspector, though we're grateful for any insights you might share. Behind her warm smile, quantum processors in her neural implant analyzed every movement of Nexville's scanning device. The station's seemingly crude walls contained layers of quantum-engineered materials designed to produce exactly the readings the Dominion would expect. No more, no less. Tell me, Director Torres. Nexville's primary eyes focused on her, while his secondary set scanned the environment. How did your engineers determine this particular alloy composition for your hull plating? Trial and error, mostly. Torres replied with a self-deprecating laugh. We've had many educational failures along the way. In the quantum-folded space, hidden behind reality, alert signals flash through humanity's defense network. This inspector was asking different questions than his predecessors, more dangerous questions, indeed. Nexville's tendrils writhed thoughtfully. I've reviewed your species' development records. Your rate of technological advancement is consistent, perhaps too consistent. Torres led him toward the station's research section, buying time as quantum computers calculated the perfect response. We've been fortunate in our experiments, though we still have so much to learn from the Dominion's guidance. The research lab was a masterpiece of deception. Failed experiments littered workbenches, each one carefully engineered to demonstrate exactly the level of understanding the Dominion expected. Quantum field generators deliberately built with flaws that any Imperial scientist would eagerly point out. Prototype drives that appeared to barely function, while actually operating on principles centuries ahead of Dominion technology. Your latest attempt at quantum communication. Nexville gestured at a device in the corner. May I? Of course, Torres nodded, watching as he approached the deliberately flawed prototype. We've had limited success, but the quantum field alignments are proving challenging. Nexville spent several minutes examining the device, his expression growing increasingly puzzled. These errors, they're perfect. I'm sorry. Torres kept her voice steady even as warning signals flashed through her neural interface. Perfect in their imperfection, Nexville clarified. Each mistake demonstrates exactly the kind of fundamental misunderstanding one would expect from a developing species, almost as if they were designed to be educational opportunities. In the quantum command center hidden beneath layers of reality, Admiral Nakamura watched the exchange with growing concern. He's sharper than the others, she subvocalized to the Quantum Defense Council. We may need to accelerate our timeline. Back in the lab, Torres was already implementing their contingency plan. We did have one unexpected success, she mentioned, leading Nexville to another device, though we're not quite sure why it worked. The device was humanity's latest masterpiece of misdirection, a quantum field generator that appeared to work through sheer luck rather than design. It would give Nexville something more interesting to focus on than his dangerous observations. Most irregular, he muttered, all 6 eyes now fixed on the new device. The field coherence should be impossible with this configuration, yet. We were hoping you could explain it. Torres pressed their advantage. Our understanding of quantum mechanics is still so primitive. As Nexville began explaining basic quantum principles that humanity had mastered centuries ago, Torres felt the tension in the quantum network ease slightly. Crisis averted for now. But in the depths of his private quarters later that day, Nexville recorded a message to the Imperial Council. Something is wrong on Earth. Their mistakes are too perfect, their progress too measured. They play the role of the primitive species learning at our feet, but I suspect we are the ones being educated, though in what, I have yet to determine. The game was becoming more dangerous. Humanity's deception had to remain perfect, every flaw calculated, every advance carefully measured. One slip, one moment of true capability showing through the facade, and centuries of preparation would be undone. In the Quantum Forge, Admiral Nakamura watched as humanity's hidden fleet grew stronger. They would need it sooner than expected. The teachers were starting to ask questions about their students, and the answers would shake the foundations of the galaxy. Breaking point. Commander Ravi Desai stared at the quantum display hidden within his ship's primitive-looking bridge. The data couldn't be right, but it was. Confirm analysis, he subvocalized through his neural interface. Show me the projected path. The asteroid was massive. 2 kilometers of rock and ice hurtling toward New Genesis, the Dominion's newest colony world. But what made his blood run cold wasn't the asteroid's size. It was its trajectory. Sir, his XO, Lieutenant Diana Walsh, kept her voice steady. The asteroid's path shows signs of deliberate manipulation. Quantum residue suggests Dominion mining charges. Their ship, outwardly a simple patrol vessel named Steadfast, hung at the edge of the New Genesis system. To Dominion sensors, they were just another primitive Earth vessel learning the basics of space patrol under Imperial guidance. In reality, they were humanity's most advanced deep space reconnaissance platform. They're testing us, Desai realized. The Dominion engineered this crisis. Through quantum channels hidden in subspace, the response from Fleet Command was immediate. Maintain Protocol 7. We cannot reveal true capabilities. Desai's fingers tightened on his command chair. On New Genesis, 2 million colonists went about their lives, unaware of the death approaching from above. The Dominion's test would kill them all just to see how Earth would respond. Imperial vessel approaching, Walsh reported. It's the Sovereign Dawn. High Inspector Nexville is aboard. Of course he was. The too observant inspector had been watching Earth's activities with uncomfortable intensity. Now he would watch their response to this engineered crisis. Steadfast. This is High Inspector Nexville. The transmission came through on standard channels. We detect a Level 1 astronomical threat to New Genesis. Your vessel is the only one in range to assist. Consider this an opportunity to demonstrate your species' problem-solving capabilities. The message was clear. Save the colony using only the primitive technology Earth was supposed to possess, or reveal their true capabilities. Either millions would die, or centuries of preparation would be undone. Sir, Walsh's voice was barely a whisper. We have incoming transmissions from the surface. Children. Desai closed his eyes. In the quantum forge, humanity's hidden fleet could launch in seconds. Their true ships could save everyone. But the moment they did, the Dominion would know they'd been deceived. Fleet Command, he transmitted through the quantum network. Request permission to implement Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega, the last resort. A way to reveal some advanced technology while maintaining the illusion that it was newly developed. The cost would be tremendous, but not as high as millions of innocent lives. Admiral Nakamura's response came instantly. Permission granted. Make it believable. Desai opened a channel to the Sovereign Dawn. High Inspector, we may have something. An experimental technology we've been developing. It's untested, probably dangerous. Explain. Nexvol's voice carried equal parts suspicion and interest. A theoretical application of quantum fields to enhance gravitational effects, Desai explained, making sure to stumble over the technical terms. We've had some success in the laboratory, but scaling it up could be catastrophic. You propose to attempt an unproven technology that your species should barely understand. All 6 of Nexvol's eyes would be watching now, analyzing every detail. We have to try, Desai replied, letting real emotion fill his voice. Those are innocent people down there. Over the next hour, the crew of the Steadfast performed a masterpiece of deception. They deployed quantum field generators that appeared cobbled together from primitive components, each one carefully designed to look like a desperate innovation rather than refined technology. To Imperial sensors, it would appear that humanity had achieved a quantum breakthrough through pure, desperate inspiration. The gravitational fields they generated were crude but effective, slowly altering the asteroid's course. Remarkable. Nexvol transmitted as the asteroid began to shift away from New Genesis. Your species continues to surprise, Commander. Though I note your quantum field configurations bear striking similarities to certain theoretical models in our databases. We are always grateful for the Dominion's guidance, Desai responded smoothly, even as his neural interface processed the hidden warning in Nexvol's words. The inspector suspected something. When the crisis had passed, Desai sent a final quantum burst to Fleet Command. Protocol Omega implemented. But sir, they know. Not everything. But they know something isn't right. In her quantum-folded command center, Admiral Nakamura nodded grimly. Then we proceed to final preparations. The deception was never meant to last forever, Commander. We just needed enough time. As the Steadfast limped home, appearing drained of power after their experimental technology use, humanity's hidden fleet moved closer to completion. The game was entering its final phase. The Dominion thought they had witnessed humanity's first stumbling steps into quantum engineering. Instead, they had seen the first crack in a facade that had hidden humanity's true power for centuries. The question was no longer if the deception would end, but when. And what would happen when it did. Unveiling. The Dominion arrived in force. 50 capital ships dropped out of hyperspace around Earth, their quantum drives burning with inefficient power. High Commander Vexthor stood on the bridge of the Imperial Dreadnought Eternal Dominance, all 4 arms clasped behind his back in what he imagined was a pose of inevitable victory. No more games, he broadcast on all frequencies. Our analysis confirms unauthorized quantum engineering far beyond your permitted development level. Earth is hereby declared a threat to galactic stability. Surrender your quantum technology for proper Imperial supervision. In her quantum-folded command center, Admiral Nakamura allowed herself a small smile. They really have no idea, do they? Through her neural interface, she watched the Dominion fleet's crude attempts at battlefield positioning. Their ships arranged themselves in traditional Imperial formation, weapons charged, shields blazing with wasted energy. Your response, Admiral? Asked Director Torres, standing beside her in the impossible space between dimensions. Send the message we've waited centuries to send, Nakamura ordered. In orbit, Captain Patel sat in his primitive vessel Tenacity, watching the Dominion ships through sensors they couldn't detect. Transmitting now, Admiral. Imperial Fleet, his voice carried across standard channels, still playing the role of the primitive human. Perhaps we could discuss this. Misunderstanding. There is nothing to discuss, Vexthor responded. Our sensors detect quantum anomalies throughout your system. Technology you could not possibly have developed independently. Your deception ends now. Actually, Patel allowed himself to drop the act for the first time in his career. You're right about one thing. The deception does end now. At that moment, reality shifted. Throughout the solar system, quantum-folded space began to unfold. Hidden dimensions revealed their secrets as humanity's true fleet emerged into normal space. Ships that dwarfed the Imperial vessels appeared as if from nowhere, their quantum drives humming with perfect efficiency. By the eternal void, one of Vexthor's officers whispered, detecting quantum signatures, impossible quantum signatures everywhere. The massive form of humanity's masterpiece, the vessel that had been under construction in the quantum forge, phased into reality directly above the Imperial fleet. The Eclipse-class quantum dreadnought made the Dominion's finest ships look like children's toys. This, Admiral Nakamura's voice carried across all channels, no longer hiding behind primitive radio waves, is what real quantum engineering looks like. In his command chair, Vexthor's head crest collapsed in shock as his sensors revealed the truth. The humans hadn't been developing quantum technology. They had mastered it centuries ago. Every primitive structure in the solar system housed technology far beyond Imperial understanding. Impossible, he breathed. You were learning from us. No, High Commander, Nakamura replied. We were studying you, learning your weaknesses, watching as you stripped world after world of resources, all while claiming to guide them to advancement. The quantum network that had remained hidden for so long now pulsed with visible power. Earth's orbital stations shed their primitive disguises, revealing the quantum fortresses they had always been. Your quantum drives, High Inspector Nexful's voice cut in, thick with revelation. They're not just more advanced. They're fundamentally different. You don't force reality to bend. You work with it. As we've worked with every species you've oppressed, Nakamura confirmed. Did you really think Earth was the only world hiding its true capabilities? That we were the only ones who saw through your empire of theft and subjugation? On cue, quantum signatures flared throughout nearby systems. On a dozen worlds the Dominion thought primitive, hidden fleets emerged. Species that had played the role of grateful students now revealed centuries of hidden advancement. This is your only warning, Nakamura announced. The age of your guidance is over. Every world you've claimed to help, every species you've tried to subjugate, they're under our protection now. In the Quantum Command Center, Director Torres monitored the Dominion fleet's reactions. They're powering weapons. Admiral. Poor students after all, Nakamura sighed. Show them. The Eclipse fired a single quantum pulse, not a weapon, but a demonstration. Reality rippled around the Imperial fleet. When it stabilized, their quantum drives simply stopped. The crude, stolen technology they relied on ceased to function. That was a fraction of our capability, Nakamura informed them. The next demonstration won't be so gentle. Your choice, High Commander. Leave this system, leave these worlds, or learn what real quantum engineering can do. Hours later, as the Imperial fleet limped away on auxiliary power, Admiral Nakamura stood in the quantum forge one last time. The great deception was over. Humanity and their allies could finally step into the light. Was it worth it? Director Torres asked. The centuries of hiding? Playing the primitive species. Nakamura watched as quantum communications flew between Earth and the worlds they had protected in secret for so long. Species emerging from hiding, sharing advances the Dominion could never have imagined. Look around. She gestured to the impossible ships, the quantum technology that had evolved far beyond mere physical laws. We didn't just preserve our independence, we created something new. A coalition of worlds united not by force or false guidance, but by the simple truth that real advancement comes from cooperation, not subjugation. In the space above Earth, the eclipse hung like a promise and a warning. Humanity had revealed its true face at last. The galaxy would never be the same. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, other worlds watched and waited, knowing that when the Dominion came to guide them, they wouldn't face the Empire alone. Earth's greatest deception had become the galaxy's greatest hope.